I'm Audrey Calder, and along with
Kristen Milliken.
Kristen is our assistant in active aging, and right now I'm having technical difficulties. So I will try to bring this up. Let's see.
So Audrey, bring it
There you
this
go.
way.
No, he didn't want me to bring it to that screen. Yeah, I was bringing it here.
Because this is a screen that's going to be showing you. If you open, bring it on that screen. Bring it.
No.
Bring it on that screen. So,
I have- Thank you for being so patient.
Thank you.
Tonight we're presenting on our active aging program at the McBride Community Senior Center. We're providing classes to meet the levels of all of our seniors, whether they're very active or they may have some challenges. Some of those classes includes our chair yoga classes, our Tai Chi classes. We've even added a self-defense class for our seniors as well. In addition to our ongoing yoga classes, some high level, some medium level, and some very extensive workout levels for our seniors. We are also offering many support options such as health and wellness presentations. We offer support groups. We've just added the Parkinson's along with our Alzheimer's dementia support group meetings. And we're also offering right now health and wellness presentations through our major sponsor, Kaiser. We're increasing cultural unity. As you may see on your desk, we've presented you with some of our upcoming and annual events, such as our Chinese New Year, Cinco de Mayo afternoon tea, and our annual Thanksgiving dinner.
And if you don't mind, I just wanted to mention, so we have our spring events that are coming up. We're gearing up for those big events, the Cinco de Mayo, the Chinese New Year, and the afternoon tea. But new this year, we are celebrating Black History Month in February, and so that's going to be on Saturday. So I hope it's a family-friendly event. Everybody's welcome to attend. And then I just wanted to touch on one other thing. You mentioned some of the presentations that we do, like through the Parkinson's, and then the classes that we're offering, the new classes like self-defense, and that we provide these recreational experiences in a safe environment. I just wanted to share one participant that I've known. He came to the center about a year ago, and he was very shy. He was out of the area, and he's hard of hearing, so he doesn't hear very well. And it's amazing to see the power of community at the McBride Senior Center and the transformation that he's really undergone in coming and being shy and not knowing a lot of people, to, at our last dance, bringing his daughter and his grandchildren and dancing and being so inspired to help us with some of our special events and get the word out. And he really it was amazing. So it can be a very powerful and impactful place.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our accomplishments this year has been our new membership program, which we just started recently, several months ago. We are at 60% of our goal. We are very, very excited that most of our members, all of our members rather, receive a discount to some of our trips and tours, our classes. They have priority registrations, quite a few incentives, discounts to events. And so they're taking advantage of it. And at the anniversary of our membership program, we're having a special luncheon for them as well. So this has been pretty exciting for us. We've opened a pop-up store, which we will discuss in a little more details later, and we've increased our revenue with our trips and tours by having the access to our vans. We have added additional trips. This year we offered 11 trips, 9 of which we were able to use our vans for. So we're very excited about that as well. One of our big highlighted trip is at the Fleet Week this year, which is always sold out.
So some of the challenges, thank you.
Sorry.
Sustaining and retaining volunteers, the competition, and then getting the word out. So sustaining and retaining our volunteers, one of the ways that we do retain our volunteers is having a volunteer appreciation luncheon where they enjoy entertainment, we give them a gift, and we recognize them for being so wonderful and giving to the center. One person in particular comes to mind. He won the CPRS award for Champion of the Community, and it was we call him Pepe, Jose Romo, and he's just been an outstanding person, very welcoming in the community. If there's a new person, he walks right up and introduces himself, and so just brings everybody into the fold. And the competition, so the competition with other agencies, gyms, for example, and then getting the word out. So just making sure that seniors are hearing about our programs, our activities, in all forms, whether through the events guide, flyers, Facebook, whatever. Usually it's something that they can hold and put their hands on.
Just to elaborate a little more on the competition, and when Kristen mentioned gyms, we are working, and we tried very hard to work with Silver Sneakers, as many of you may be familiar with. And I even got certified and several other volunteers to offer the program there at McBride. But what's been happening is with larger companies such as Kaiser, HMOs in general, they're able to offer seniors at a certain age, qualified for Silver Sneakers, access to our local gyms, which is providing them with a lot of other additional classes, swim classes at no fee. So it's been quite a challenge for us to retain or to attract new active seniors when they can go to other facilities and take advantage of all the wonderful programs they're offering.
Thank you.
New attractions. Our new membership program, which is very attractive to most of our seniors in that they are given a discount early registration, as mentioned before. Our computer classes, we're offering new classes now with most everyone transitioning into Google spreadsheets and documents and so forth. We have been fortunate enough to attract a contractor who will be teaching those classes. And we've also added voice lessons, several new classes, golf classes, cooking classes, and we're working on additional classes as well. And here are some of our testimonials.
And so back to our pop-up. So one of the successes, so our two successes, I would say over the last year, even maybe year and a half, the membership program. And I just wanted to add, it's $25 per person and it lasts a whole year from the date of purchase. And you do not have to be a member in order to participate in any of the classes, events, or trips. So just wanted to add that. So the membership program definitely, but then this pop-up, the pop-up space. And it was formerly the Area Agency on Aging, and it's about 120 square feet, I think. And we've been able to have the space available for different vendors in our community. Fleet Feet took part of this. It was About Face and Horton Bath Collection, and now the Solano County Office of Education has been there for about the last 3 months. It's with their special needs children, and they create these great projects and then they sell them in the store. So they can be there anywhere from 1 to 3 months. It's really been evolving how long they want to stay. And 20% of what they make in profit goes back to serving our senior community in the form of scholarships so that seniors can participate in our classes, events, and programs free of charge.
And with that, I'd like to show you just a little highlight of what's happening at McBride with the pop-up space. Oops.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, we're live here in Vacaville, and while Vacaville may be known for the outlets, I want to direct you to the McBride Senior Center, because inside here is a spot you might want to consider. Let me show you inside the This and That store. What makes this store unique is that, number one, it is run by special education students with, quote, different ability levels. And not only do these special needs students run the store and gain valuable work experience in a real-life store setting, but here's the thing. Everything in this store is made by students. Arts, crafts, gift ideas, cards. So when you shop here, not only might you be able to find a unique holiday gift idea, but you will directly be impacting the life of students.
It makes us all feel really great, and so we keep making more to sell here.
We work real hard on this.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be a shame, and no one's not gonna wear this. It's gonna break some of our hearts.
So come check us out here at the McBride Center.
You don't want to break anybody's heart, right? So here are the details on when and where you can make a difference for the This and That store. It is open 4 days a week from now until December 20th, Monday through Wednesday, and Friday are the 4 days. It is located inside the Vacaville McBride Senior Center, which is at 91 Town Square Place in Vacaville. So again, while Vacaville may be known for its outlets, you might want to come down to the Senior Center to see the student-run store inside, because as you heard, if people don't buy those wonderful handmade gifts inside there, you might break the hearts of students. Live in Vacaville this morning, Mike Sell, KCRA 3 News.
All right, thank you so much.
And with that, please take advantage if you have shopping, Christmas holiday shopping, please take advantage as coming down to the McBride Center for your shopping experience. They are also going to be there through Valentine's Day. So again, please take advantage. Thank you, and any questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you for sharing that story as well. It humanizes exactly what you guys are doing on the ground and how you're reaching people through these various programs. And I was wondering, oh, sorry. Is my mic, it's on, right?
It just came on.
Oh, perfect. And I was also wondering, where did you say the money is going for that McBride Center shop?
The pop-up store,
Yeah.
it goes to our scholarship.
Oh,
Scholarship
okay.
fund.
For the students and who are participating? Or?
Yes.
Great, awesome, thank you. Any other questions? Looks like Commissioner Chang?
Thank you, Audrey and Christian, coming to present the Itching Center. I'm kind of confused, right? I think I heard in your presentation you mentioned senior, right, the membership and all that. But again, on your flyer here, you say for all ages, and you put McBride Community Center, all right? So can non-senior apply to be a members?
Yes.
So
Well-
it's not only for senior?
Yes, well, if you look at the flyer, the programs that you see there are multi-generational programs. So they are like Chinese New Year's, family members can bring their grandkids to that. Black History Month is on a Saturday, and that's also inclusive of grandchildren, family members, and so forth. Likewise, Cinco de Mayo and the Tea Party. And all of these events, we also have young individuals performing. So it's open really to all ages and the general public.
I know we discussed this before, the McBride Center, all the while we're saying McBride Senior Center.
Yes.
And also we do organize activities for all ages, correct?
Yes, oh, absolutely.
So it's not strictly just a senior center.
No, we're inclusive. We have senior programs from 8:30 in the morning until about 3 o'clock, which most seniors are gone. They're not participating. Some of our active seniors are there, during the days, or like tonight we have our jam session. They are taking advantage of that. But we also will have other classes there as well, such as ballet or cooking classes. Yes.
So what is the percentage of participants are senior and non-senior, and also the membership-wise? Do you have a data on it?
I do, but I don't have it here. But I must say, during the day, it's more like 90% are seniors.
So your marketing is focusing on senior.
For active adults, I must say, not only just seniors, I have to say. They are seniors, but most of our seniors look at themselves as active adults.
Do you have a program for high school students, after-school programs?
There are computer classes. We're trying to encourage high school students to come in and mentor some of our seniors in providing some of their technical skills.
So this particular presentation, it dealt more with the active aging population versus, like in the events guide, there's other programs out there for different elementary school or high school kids, but this particular presentation dealt a little bit more with what we're doing for the senior population.
Yes,
Okay, all right. Thank you.
you're very welcome. I am a senior and I'm proud of it. But I feel I'm an active adult senior. So,
Me too.
and I want my discounts and my membership. I actually signed up as a member, an active member, so, yes.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you, Audrey.
welcome.
Yeah.
Commissioner Palmer, you were next.
Thank you guys for coming. I just had a couple of questions. On the pop-up store, do you ever have the seniors that participate at the facility sell some of their goods and services, like the knitting, crocheting? I don't want to stereotype, but like anything that they do, does any of those participants?
Absolutely. The very first vendor we had was from our watercolor painting class, and they had all of their work there for several months.
So you do recommend?
Oh, absolutely. We encourage them, and we are encouraging mainly most of our local vendors, entrepreneurs as well.
Okay. And then do you guys, I didn't know if you do, but do you guys do art classes? Do you offer art classes for the active adults or anything like that? Or drawing classes, anything like that?
Yes, we have our watercolor class right now. We are looking for additional instructors, but yes.
Then I had one more question, just one more. Paul sparked something, or Commissioner Chang sparked something when he said about when he was talking about the all ages. I remember last year when you did the presentation, you were speaking on finding different ways to get the intergenerations to meet, and the computer. I applaud you for the computers, where this younger adults are helping the older people. Is there any classes that you have for maybe the seniors to teach life lessons to the younger adults? Opposite. So like knitting or crocheting, do we have anything like that? So they're bringing the generations in that way, but it's the seniors, maybe older active adults working with. Do we offer that?
We try to do it in not that they're teaching their grandchildren or whomever, neighbor's child, but where they can work together. So we've offered classes, intergenerational classes, where they can come in and participate together, whether it's making some kind of activity, soap making, cooking together, and so forth. Greeting cards, yes, we've offered those.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Okay,
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Commissioner Ramos?
Thank you for your presentation. I want to encourage everyone to visit that pop-up store. I've been to a couple of the versions, and I went yesterday to the most recent, and I came out with bagfuls of the most adorable gifts for people for the season. The Christmas cards are
Just for
perfection.
$1.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Very, yes.
You should definitely do your shopping there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm definitely going to go to the pop-up store and encourage it as much as possible too as we gear it for the holiday season. So thank you very much for coming and presenting today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 8B, program cancellations by Recreation Manager Melody Ocampo, or Campo, sorry, about that Melody. And I also ask that we let her go through the presentation and any questions we can ask following her presentation.
Thank you, Chair Lujan, Commissioners. Let me just pull this up real quick. Let's see. Okay. So, as mentioned, I am here to present on the program class and activity cancellations. So, just wanted to give a little information. This was a question that had come up at a previous commission meeting. So, classes and activity participation is really the number one reason why the department cancels an internal class. There's other factors as well, including revenue. The coordinators will determine the minimum amount of acceptable participants that cover the cost of running the class prior to even offering the program. And then, of course, there are factors such as increasing program costs or staffing costs that maybe will allow for us to adjust or require us to adjust those minimums in terms of the participation, and then also impact the potential price of the class. So we also have for contract instructors, Audrey was mentioning she has a watercolor instructor. So those instructors then have some discrepancy to set their minimums and maximums, and those get placed in their contracts. A couple examples of operational reasons for class and or activity cancellations. Again, low enrollment or participation. Activity is not covering its costs. Things such as the weather that we have no control over, staff availability, facility availability, and then other unforeseen circumstances. Again, coordinators make the decisions to cancel these classes or activities that are operated by staff that don't meet those minimum number of participants. And whether or not classes are subsidized or not, they all have established revenue goals. And they are required to meet those goals, and that is highly tied to the minimum number of participants that are expected to attend. So again, instructors do have that ability to set those minimums for classes, and we do kind of try and run things a few times prior to canceling just so that they can gain some momentum, but at a certain point, we will sometimes have to say, okay, we're not getting the participation and we're not being effective in terms of use of taxpayer money to provide the program. So just to kind of give you a little comparison, we did reach out to the cities that are listed: Davis, Benicia, Napa, Walnut Creek, Vallejo, and West Sacramento. Other local cities that you don't see listed here, we reached out really widely, and then we just didn't hear back. That's the only reason you might not see someone listed. But you can see that across the board, it's really the same reasons. And then this next slide is who's canceling. And again, it's the same: canceled by the coordinators, canceled by the instructors. There's no formal approval process. That's kind of standard, what we found in the park and recreation industry. That's what we heard from all of these cities that we spoke with. Cancellations, again, are determined by the coordinator and based on low participation. There was one exception to that, which was the city of West Sacramento. Any long-standing classes, they do have approved by a supervisor if they do make a decision to cut that program or cancel those classes. Some examples of some of the classes that our city has recently canceled: Parks and Recs have had to cancel some of our 6th grade events, flag football leagues, art classes, some gymnastics, scuba diving, adult basketball, ballet sessions, cheerleading. I could keep going, but I don't want to make it sound. We have a lot of programs that run. We offer so much. But if people aren't coming, then it doesn't make sense to continue to offer it. There were 3 of the cities that we reached out to that do have disclaimers. You can see here, Davis has, we have the right to cancel programs due to low enrollment or unexpected problems. Walnut Creek, full refund for low enrollment or cancellations due to weather. And Vallejo, GVRD, reserves the right to change or discontinue activities without notice. City of Vacaville Parks and Rec, we have a little something in our refund policy. We don't technically have a true disclaimer, but in section 2 of our policy, it just says that, you know, full refunds will be issued if the Parks and Recreation Department does cancel the program. So we did kind of say, okay, maybe we need to have a little bit of a disclaimer. And so we just kind of came up with this statement here, which is we reserve the right to cancel or discontinue, hit the button, discontinue classes/activities due to low enrollment/participation or for any unforeseen circumstances, just to kind of give people that heads up, like, hey, we would love to keep offering these classes, but sometimes we are going to have to cancel things. So that is my brief presentation, and I'll now open it up for questions.
Thank you very much
Yeah,
for
no
that,
problem.
Melody. It's informative. I was wondering, so you were mentioning, I just had a question about, you were
me to go
mentioning
back?
that if, can you go back, or actually go back one more one more slide, sorry.
Forward
To the
or back? I'm sorry.
second from the last.
Second from the last.
And you were
This
mentioning if
one-
the program is canceled by the Vacaville Parks and Recreation
Yes.
Department, would that include if the coordinator or independent contractor of that program cancels the program? Would the people also get their full refund?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Rucker?
Hello. Oh, back up a little bit. So in terms of when classes are canceled, what is happening?
Here. Can,
Mine's not on. There we go. Now it's on. So when classes are canceled, how is it being communicated to guardians, parents, that classes are being canceled? Because I only ask because I could imagine that would be the issue, is parents saying like, wait a minute, like I'm just finding out about this last minute. So what does that process look like?
It really does vary. It really does vary on the class.
Is that, there we go.
You're good.
You know, sometimes we are, okay. I can
That's
just
okay.
be,
You're good now, because I turned off Commissioner Rucker's.
okay. I think I'm good. Okay.
It's when these two are on together.
So to answer the question about when the notification happens to parents or other participants, it does vary by class. There's a fine balance between, you know, a lot of times we get registration at sometimes the last minute, whether that's, you know, 2 days before, a day before. So do we cancel a week early so that the maybe 5 people who are enrolled get that notification ahead of time, or do we kind of push that and wait until maybe 2 days before so that, okay, now the class can run because now there is that 10 participant minimum. So it really just depends on the class and program, and that is kind of at the discretion of the coordinator. We do, you know, there are certain programs such as like an example is our swim lessons where we really know about the Thursday before the Monday when a swim lesson might start. We're notifying people, we're trying to condense classes and do things such as that. And sometimes we're giving people a heads up. We've had classes where there's maybe 3 people enrolled and we kind of let those people know, hey, this is at risk of canceling. So it really just does vary, and a lot of that also depends on some of the staff time as well, and making sure that we have people in place that can get those notifications out.
Thank you. Commissioner Palmer?
Thank you for presenting. And I do highly, strongly endorse this, how our staff's doing it. I do have a couple of questions on the idea of when you reached out to the other cities, obviously if it's low participation, and because I'm a perfect example, I taught a class with our city and I didn't get any participation, so I was one of the instructors that pulled it. We know this.
Right.
Okay, so I guess one question that I had was when you were reaching out to the different cities, did they have like a policy or criteria that they could give to the citizens of the city to make it a little bit more transparent? Meaning something like if there's a 20% drop, or like if they actually put a number on it, if there's like a more than 20% drop, then we'll need to pull it. Or the only hole with this that I see is that if there isn't something a little bit more written in, like maybe even a sentence more that says, if we have, I don't know how to say it, but what I'm trying to say is that to cover the city staff a little bit better, is there a system that you found with the other cities that we've used the word a tier system, and not necessarily a tier system, but something that, can you help me?
I think I know what you're asking, kind of just an official process, or, here are the thresholds or criteria that have to be met?
Not
No?
necessarily
Okay.
that, because I saw, you had explained to us before that there's a flaw with that, because if there is a policy and we want to stick to that policy and there's nobody there, then it doesn't give the instructors or the coordinator the option to, make that executive decision. So I'm not necessarily saying that a hard criteria should be in there, but not a hard criteria, but maybe something.
Sorry to interrupt you. It's like standardized.
Yes.
So we did actually specifically ask, and none of the cities that we corresponded with had any sort of formal process. It was just at the discretion of the coordinator, and again, based on the participation numbers that they were getting. Most of the time, and a majority of our programs are pre-registration. So I think it's just, then there's that balance for those things where we have kind of the drop-in and having to evaluate, are people showing up? Is this worth the time and money that we're spending to program, and then also pay the staff to run that program?
So what do we do if there's a program that's been with us for 15 years? This is the thing. So say if something was with us for 15 years and it was really popular, and maybe it's done its highs and lows, but it's so popular that we want to keep it because we know it might go up when we throw in some extra new pieces to it. But then there's like a period of there we go. So then there's like a period of 6 years, 3 years, like where's the gauge there where we're like, we've got to pull this? Do we have that in writing?
No, and we didn't find any cities that had something of that nature that we could model after.
I'm welcoming like any opinion or suggestion on that, because I think that's where we get into our little binds sometimes, is that when do we know, when there's things that we've kept going, we've kept them going,
Right.
and we know that they're dying, and then we did pull something after 7 years of it dying, and then we have the city come, or this citizen say, well, you ran it for this long this way. Like, does anybody have like a suggestion, or is there anything that we could possibly research on that idea?
And that's a interesting point as well, just to make sure that I like the idea of having a disclaimer, because I think when somebody signs up for a program, they need to understand that it is at, if the program's not meeting its requirements to have that cost recovery, then they have to understand that that option is there for the city to cancel it if it's not bringing in what it was intended to bring in. But having some sort of standardized, some sort of way to have it be more equitable across across all programs, so that way not one particular program that's dying is continuing on for year after year, while other programs are canceled in the first few months. Is that what you're trying to say, Commissioner Perlman? That if a program is not meeting its cost recovery, then it's canceled right away. But then other programs, if they're not meeting their cost recovery and they're continuing year after year after year, trying to figure out if there is something we can add to the policy that would make it more equitable, so that way we're not seemingly, showing favoritism toward any one particular program over another. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, that's what I'm saying, because we don't want to have a hard policy, because there's some things that will be revived. I get that. You've shared that with us before. So I get that, but maybe that's what I'm asking. Maybe there should be some type of line or written something that says the capacity. Maybe it's the debt. Like if we're going under this for this period of time, we have to pull it, or maybe it's the debt instead of the time, because like something like the pool, the pool can be resuscitated because there's always new things. There's water polo, there's all these great things that we want to keep trying to keep it alive and going. But then there might be,
I think just, speaking from my experience running recreation programs, where we really see things maybe die off and then get revived is we're listening to the participants that are coming to the facility, coming to programs, and also that's why we have this commission, right? So people can come and say, you know what I want in my community? X, Y, and Z. Give me this program, give me that program. We're constantly looking at trends as well. Things are always ebbing and flowing, right? What's popular for 2 years might die away and then, come back and be popular again in 5 more years, right? It's like fashion. Bell bottoms are great for a season and then for a couple of decades and then they're gone and then they're back.
Great.
So
Thank
I think
you.
it's,
I'm glad you guys are
People come back.
researching it. That's
Yes.
really good. Commissioner Chang, and then Commissioner Ramos.
Thank you, Meredith, for coming and tell us about the cancellation policy. Since Commissioner Plummer brought out the winter programs, the swimming pool, I tend not to bring it up, but I think she got the point is sometimes we cancel a program, we cannot look at just the financial feasibility. I know you need $65 an hour to cover the programs, correct?
correct.
And that's one of the things that we brought up, $65. And also, can we look into the whole year instead of just one particular seasons or one particular programs? If the overall that we are making generate enough revenue to cover that programs, then maybe we should continue. And sometimes it takes 1 or 2 seasons to pick up, members or participants. So you could lose just a business. You could be losing money at the first and second trial. And then if you're persistent enough to continue, you'll get more attentions. And other than the winter program, like computer programming, for example, sometimes it's hard for a student to come in and to generate the interest. It takes time,
Right.
And I've done it like scratch program. Sometimes I only have 1 or 2 students, but I can continue. But after 2 years, you'll get 20, 30 students, then you're able to generate revenue. So I think what we are saying is sometimes it's not strictly on financial feasibility. You may have to look at other aspects as well. If we can cover all, then maybe it's worth it to do it. And I think that's what we want to say. Is that right?
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ramos?
Melody, you had mentioned some of the cities you spoke to had language talking about longstanding programs requiring additional approvals. Is that something that you're considering?
There was one city, West Sacramento. They have a supervisor level approve any longstanding program cancellation before it occurs. And I would have to kind of defer to our department head, Director Walker, and I think anything's up for discussion.
Similar to the discretionary booking to protect long-running programs. Is that something that you guys, am I allowed to ask a question? I forget.
Director Walker, if you have some information, that would be great.
Well, first let me start by saying that typically with our newer programs, we do encourage instructors to give it more than one shot. I mean, we like to, we've had a quarterly guide and we try to encourage them, hey, don't just give this one time, or we will ask them, are you willing to offer your class with maybe just 2 participants when your minimum number was 5? Because a lot of times those 2 participants, and by word of mouth, it will spread and then become successful. So we do encourage them to offer classes more than once. I think, as we've shared previously, and when the budget was presented, I think that there are certain programs that it is acceptable per council's approval of the budget, there is a certain level of subsidy. So not all programs are expected to cover 100% of their costs. There are other program areas that are expected to cover 100% of their costs. in terms of the long-term programs, I think, and we recently, Reggie and I were just talking, we just had a budget presentation, and one of our coordinators was sharing with us one of their long-standing programs that they just made a decision to cancel, because at what point, you know, are they no longer solvent, or you, again, have offered it repeatedly, and you're just not getting the participation numbers. And we do things sometimes, and I'll use the water fitness as an example. We offer other programs at the same time to, in hopes of saving a program such as that, so that you're relying on multiple programs and classes in an effort, you know, hoping to help each other, assist each other, subsidize each other if possible. But sometimes, you know, you just, I think too, with that particular program area, because for so long the facility and the program budget were meshed, they were together, one budget, it wasn't really discovered the level of subsidy until those budgets were separated. And then those aquatic programs, then the expectation was that there be cost recovery on the program side, because all the costs associated with the facility were pulled out. So a lot going on there.
Thank you for that clarification.
I don't know if it clarified, but
a little bit. Great. Any other questions or comments? No? Great. Well, thank you very much, Melody. We appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Moving on to item 7A, business from the floor. This is the time to address the commission with issues that are not on the agenda that are within the commission's subject matter jurisdiction. Maximum 3 minutes per speaker or group per government code. And we'll go ahead and open up for business from the floor. Seeing as there are none, seeing as there are none right now, I understand Director Walker has a couple introductions to make at this time.
yes, thank you, Chairman Tom.
Yep, thank you. All right.
Thank
There we
you.
go.
Yes, this evening I'm excited to introduce to you 2 new staff. They started on Monday. We have 2 new recreation coordinators, and I'll ask them to step down to the podium. One of them is Tiffany Ritchie Western, who will be coordinating our special events and cultural arts program. The other coordinator is Morgan Kruger, and she'll be coordinating our aquatics and special interest program. So I'll ask them to just share a little bit about themselves and their history, where they came from, and tell us how excited you are to be here in Vacaville.
Hello, my name is Morgan. I'm working in the aquatics and special interest now. Let's see here, for the past, I'd say 6.5 years, I've kind of bounced all around the world of recreation. Most recently working with seniors with dementia, programming their day activities, working with the city of Napa, their senior center and their activities, their summer kids camps, and then before that, I used to live back in Wisconsin. That's where I did a lot of my aquatics work in a couple different facilities. So I'm really excited to be in Vacaville and to come back into aquatics. Yes.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Ritchie Western. I have over 20 years worth of experience in the recreation realm. I've done pretty much anything and everything with the exception of aquatics. I'm going to be doing special events and cultural arts moving forward with the city of Vacaville, and I am so excited to be here.
Well, thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you.
In that case, we'll go ahead and close business from the floor. Moving on to item 8A. This is regarding the Eleanor Nelson Park Master Plan. I believe we have a couple folks from MDG out here to present on that. And I did, just before we go ahead and open it up to the presenters, I did want to just, we know that Commissioner McMahon and Commissioner Greaves have been sitting on the Nelson Park subcommittee for a while now. Would you guys be able to just mention a couple things? I know we've had 2 publicized community meetings so far now, and if there's anything that you wanted to add before the presenters, we'd love to hear it. No? Okay, great.
I'll wait till after the presentation.
Great. Okay, so after the presentation, and with that, we'll go ahead and open it up to MDG to present on it. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Oh,
Now I'm
there you
on.
go. Now you're on.
Greg Melton, principal of Melton Design Group, and Olga Garzin, my left hand today. So we've been working with Reggie and the committee and Carrie and putting together the new master plan for Eleanor Nelson. And it's been fun. We've had a good time going through that process. And in a nutshell, I guess the goals of the project was to develop this extra 6 acres of a park that was undeveloped and really turn this into a community park that had more uses than just ball play and one small playground. So with that and the needs assessment that the city and the community had provided, and the master plan, the recreation master plan, kind of gave us some guidance. That and other community meetings that we've had has kind of directed us down this road to where we're at now and what we're about to show you. So we are in the preliminary master plan stage, so it's still very early on. So this is where we're here introducing it to you, and of course any of your input or staff's input is all greatly appreciated. All right, so let's give you a little background. The Nut Tree Road over here, Marshall Road, Pena School up here, the middle school, and Alamo Creek comes in on this side. And this is basically the 6 acres that wasn't being used on the project. So we've kind of, as we looked at this park, we divided it up into basically 3 areas. One, the ball play areas here. 2, the new existing play area was right here. And so our new play area here. And then 3, kind of our oak woodland area, open space, natural open space area. So I'm going to kind of dive into details of each one of these, and as we do that, you'll see how this all comes together. So the ball field, play field areas first. The corner of Nut Tree and Marshall here, we wanted to look at really creating some identity for the park. At this point, you drive through and it's really not super identity. You got trees, you have some big outfield fences. You don't really recognize it as a community park. You don't see the big Vacaville logo anywhere or the rec logo. So we wanted some new monument signs. And then also up on that fence, we saw an opportunity to do some decorative panels up on those areas. And so when you're on these main areas traveling through, you would have some more visibility from the distance. So that's like your first introduction. I'll kind of go clockwise here. Secondly, we wanted to create a second access into the park with adding some parking. With that allows us to create about 30 spaces, so 26 spaces with some drop-off. Still allows warm-up area, create a controlled access into the park to where we have the need for vehicles, maintenance vehicles, et cetera. But then also create a new mini field for the younger ball players. So that area right now is not really being used for anything. So we would be able to activate this space. And in doing so, it kind of had us look at this whole corridor, the core center of the ball play area, and really identify how can this become more efficient, more effective, more attractive, fun for everybody, right? Because right now there's no play in this area. Parents are in here watching games with their ball players, but where's the little guy playing, right? He's way out here. So we wanted to introduce some play into that area. Also, we wanted to look at some other possible events to where if something was going on in the event, we wanted to have food trucks, then we could bring those into the site. The project would be contained with fencing along this edge, so cars and things like that couldn't just drive into the site. So the food trucks would have to be allowed into that space. So, and that could be a lot of things. It could be food trucks, it could be pop-up tents, it could be all kinds of different events that could occur here. So we really wanted to start activating the space that was inactive. In the core, we wanted to recreate a larger picnic pavilion, provide a space for all these players to be when they're not playing or in between games, or parents. With that, we'd have a concession stand. There's already one there, but there's really no sitting and picnicking area that's covered or shaded or anything right now. So that becomes kind of our central core. Behind that would be a new restroom, and that restroom would have like 10 stalls in it. So a lot more toilets than we have right now. And then between the two, we kind of created a little plaza there where we could hang some lights, have some more tables, some real long tables, so people could just come, enjoy the food. If they're having a barbecue, they can use that space as a gathering area. If teams want to meet somewhere, they can meet there. So just a real active space in the center. And then storage is also very important. So we wanted to make sure we maintained or added to the amount of storage we had there now, and made it very accessible from this nut tree access right into the storage area. So that kind of handles this primary core. I'm going to talk about the other side here, the entry. So with the entry and access gateway into there, right now we just have a chain link fence across there, and there is some signage. But we really wanted to create something exciting. We really wanted an eye catcher somewhere that is interactive, something that says, hey, this is a ball diamond, right? This is something fun. And so the plaza wanted to be, you can see in the background, that's where our group picnic area is, way at the end of the promenade. But as you came up, there would be some sculptural art, a gateway that's obviously diamond related, softball, baseball, whatever is being played on the fields. And then a promenade that runs through there. And this promenade would have these vertical elements, which would also have lights on them, so we're lighting up the area. And along this promenade, we wanted to activate that to where you could have pop-up tents, you can have events, you could have craft fairs, you could have food fairs, you could have all kinds of things in here. So it's just not a walkway just going down with some grass and shade, but it's actually a real event space. So we're activating a space that wasn't currently activated except for during ball games. And again, this is all theme oriented, so we really wanted, this would be a great photo op walking up to this, right? This would be like a 4-foot softball. So you'd be able to roll on it, stand on it, take a picture with it, whatever it may be. So just something really creative, fun, inviting, and this is just some of the ideas that we've had initially with that. The rest of the park is, like we mentioned before, it's kind of divided into two spots. One, the natural oak woodland, and then our new play area. This is the existing parking that you see here. So this area is kind of driven by the environment at this point. We have the wonderful elderberry bush and the longhorn elderberry beetle that is our friend here. So all these greens that you see, all these green bushes that you see are elderberry. And the elderberry is a endangered species, plant species. I'm sorry, the beetle is an endangered species. The plant is the host for that species. So there's a 165-foot setback for that. And so that's what you see, these big circles from each plant. It even comes in here, comes in here. So we currently are saying, okay, we want to enlarge the park, so we're going to have to possibly look at mitigating some of these elderberry bushes and to create enough space. Because if we didn't, then we'd be back to right here, and our park would be hardly any area to add to the space. So we kind of picked what we saw was enough space we needed to provide some of the elements that we wanted, and said, okay, how many bushes is that at this point?
We are encroaching into at least 4 of them.
Right, out of
the clusters that you see now. The goal is to figure out how much we can encroach and trying to understand how close we can come to those shrubs. We're also trying to understand if the shrubs are currently actively hosting any of the beetles. And so the city is going through that process of trying to figure out how we can get a habitat assessment, and that will help us determine whether, one, if the beetles are active on our site, and two, if any of the shrubs are actually hosting any of those beetles, and that will determine how close we can come to those shrubs. But right now, this design is encroaching into about 4 or 5 clusters, and then
these right here.
if we wanted to continue encroaching into those clusters, then we just had to figure out how we can mitigate for those shrubs or relocate those shrubs as needed if those shrubs are actually hosting or, providing habitat for the beetle. But that's still, we're still undergoing that process.
An assessment will address that up and coming. So, so these are the two areas. I'll give you a quick rundown. So we wanted to add more parking into the space, but not take it deep into the site because we wanted that, want to be able to maintain security and not penetrate into the whole site with cars. So what this has, we still have our entry in that pathway that runs through the park. There's the memorial, Sarah's memorial there. And then we have a new entry right here off the parking, and then a second one off this area that are kind of more announced entrances. So there'll be a gateway there of some sort showing your access. And as you come in, we have a little village of play, I guess is what we're calling it. Children's play area, a water play area, an adventure play area, and this is all divided by little group picnic shelters. So if you could imagine if we are having a large Saturday afternoon there, so you'd be underneath a shelter in shade or out of the whatever weather and watching your kids play or interacting or having lunch or whatever you wanted to do there. So we wanted to interact the play with the picnic areas so they were had good relationship with each other. Also, these picnic areas would serve great as team gathering areas after your game, before a game, if we're having a big Bobby Sox tournament, anything like that. So it works out really well. So let me zoom in on those a little bit more. So talking about the water play, you can kind of see there's the large group picnic area focused on the water play, and then a smaller one, similar, centered on it. But our goal was to create something that was, active water play, but also have some quiet water play areas for those people that don't want the big bucket of water dumping on their heads, but just want to sit in a little bit of water. So we kind of wanted to bring both types of play in, along with some natural seating, rocks and boulders. And if you haven't heard, we have a resident fox on site that has been seen and seen again. And so Mr. Fox and Mrs. Rabbit would become one of our theme play elements here. So in today's wonderful technology, we can create these things either out of concrete or gunite or whatever it may be, and they could shoot water if they want, or just be a part of the theme, be a perfect little photo op for your 4-year-old or whatever it is. But to have just a play area that allows shade also, so you can see these elements on this park here where they're just big flower petals, and we could do something similar like big oak leaves or whatever ties into our park theme. So just a lot of fun, a lot of interaction, and I know you guys have an existing spray ground currently at Magnolia that gets a lot of use, so we see that this is another great opportunity for this community park to provide something like that. The adventure play, which is off to the side here. And the goal of the adventure play is to get those children that are no longer super interested in the slides and the swings and the small decks to do something that's more risk-oriented, something that's going to stimulate them more, and create some tension with them in their bodies where they have to do something, a climbing boulder, a zip line, get something that really is activating them, right? We know it's proven that if we can get kids out doing things like this, that they're on top of their game more, they're more alert, they're more aware, they're out of the phones, they're out of the computers, and they'll spend more time doing this and rock climbing, zip lining, sliding off 16-foot slides, something that's super fun. So we know that we've lost a lot of the teenagers right when they, hit that 11, 12-year-olds before they're even teens to the phone. So we're trying to really capture them back. And that's where the bouldering is super popular, even into the college ages now. So I think we'll get a lot more bigger brothers hanging around more with little brothers and little sisters and really being part of the playground more where we have lost that. So that's where the adventure play comes from.
And one thing to know, if I might, there's the area where we're showing our playground is an area that has a lot of trees, and our goal is to preserve as many trees as possible and to actually incorporate them into the new play areas. So this image is a good example of how we managed to do it in a similar situation where we have large oak trees adjacent to our play structure, and that already provides enough shade, but it also provides more of a natural play environment with our play pieces as well. So that's the goal here as well.
Really trying to avoid the big sails, you know, out there and that are still hot underneath them and not as natural. So, good point. The natural play. So this is kind of our toddler and children play area combined, to where we're doing group swings, these types of boardwalks where they're just get you running. You don't want to get on that and walk, right? You get on that and you want to run through something like that. So it's not just the playground you pull out of a catalog, but things that are really going to be different and focused on, you know, what Eleanor Nelson Park wants to do. So climbing boulders, these little tunnels. And again, the word inclusive has showed up in our world the last several years, and it means a lot of different things in the playground world. So I'm not even going to try to describe it right now, but it's just about providing different spaces for the difference in ourselves, right? So some people like to be on a swing with group of 5. Some want to just disappear, right? Some want to get involved with a lot of people. Some want to be by themselves. So we just want to provide those types of areas in the whole playground. So. Anything else in that? And then, so out in the remaining areas, one, we wanted to do fitness stations around because we have this trail system now that is getting established. And, we're working right now in this natural area. We're hoping to have a trail or some type of beaten path through there so people can feel they can go back into the woodland. The elderberry directors will tell us how we can develop that, or if it will end up being just a natural trail that's created by Mr. Fox and Mrs. Rabbit, or however it's used, right? But, we want to create fitness stations so mom and dads can sit around and watch the kids play and get a workout at the same time. We also, next to the large group picnic area, we have a bocce courts, 2 bocce courts planned there, full-size bocce courts, so we can, engage either seniors or families to play. And then in the turf area, we can also drop some. It's just a natural turf play. We're not designating anything there. Come do what you want. Fly a kite, play frisbee golf, whatever. So these are our other play areas. And then, of course, the best play area is the Oak Woodland. Go in there, sneak around in the trees, have some fun. There's, of course, the remnants of Alamo Creek across the back of that. That's a buffer in there. And part of this was also we have residences along this edge that we wanted to be considerate about too. And so you don't see us pulling the parking lot way deep into the lot at this point. So those residents, several of them have come to our meetings and have expressed the fact that they really would like a buffer of some sort. So in a nutshell, that explains what you've seen so far. So questions, or Reggie, do you want to add to that? Or?
Great. Oh, do you need me to?
Yeah, I'm not sure if any of the other committee members want to add to this, but just as a backdrop to it, we've had several committee meetings getting to this point, and 2 community meetings getting to this point, and just taking all the input and the feedback from the residents and from the committee, trying to come up with a good plan. And I think Melton Design Group came up with a good draft plan, because this is a draft, but we still want the commission to have an opportunity and citizens to have an opportunity to comment on this plan. And as Greg mentioned, a lot of this is going to be dictated by the elderberry beetle. I mean, we may not be able to do anything in that area, because once you start mitigating, the price tag goes up to construct and develop the park. So we haven't done the bio report yet. We're working on that. And so what we see now could change depending on what that bio report says. But I think what he's put forth has taken into account of all the feedback that we've received, and it's a work in progress, so we appreciate that.
Great, thank you, Reggie. And I had a quick question too, just about the plan with the T-ball right there. It's right next to that parking lot. You were talking about fencing?
Yeah, so there'll be a lot of separation between the cars and the T-ball, and there'll be a fence across here, not allowing kids to walk out or anything else like that. So anywhere we have parking next to play, there'll be a minimum of a 4-foot fence not allowing kids just to run out into the parking lots or escape out and having parents have to chase them, so.
Okay. And then, and is that going to also have some sort of green landscape? I know with the needs assessment, a lot of folks residents were talking about trying to keep a lot of the natural elements in the parks. And thank you for doing that with the boulders and everything, but with the fencing, is that going to also include like some sort of green buffer as well?
So we do have them there. So the idea is to, as you come into the parking lot or are in the handicap section or on their off-ramp, you actually have access to the park right away, but you see the green areas, those are landscape areas.
Here.
Yeah, so we do have a lot of green buffers. We try to keep them away from the edges where we know people are going to trample or, exit their vehicles. So we do provide that after we have a paving area for people to step onto.
Great.
So yeah, the parking lot doesn't show it, but there'll be shade trees and everything else at this point. We haven't shown any additional trees on this plan because it's still very conceptual, but you can assume that we'll have 50% shade on the parking. We'll have the the parking islands will all be planted. There's also a fence out on this edge too, along Nut Tree. So there's not just one that'll be here. There'll be a larger one out here because at some point we have to close the park.
Okay, great. Thank you. Commissioner Palmer?
Hi. So I just have a couple of questions just for clarity.
Sure.
The second slide with the walkway, is the walkway facing Marshall or would it be diagonal? Because we have this slide and then the next slide, you were talking about the entryway. Is the entryway, is it opened up from Marshall or would it be like at the diagonal on the corner?
So yeah, Marshall runs this way, right? So as you come in, this is that first entrance in, and there is a sidewalk here now. So our goal is to open this up so when you come into this space, it's like a plaza into here. And so there is buffer and there will be small fencing there also because we don't want just kids playing in this and have access to the cars pulling in. So everything where we know kids are going to access the vehicle, we create both plant and low fence barrier.
Perfect. And then if we were able to do the water play, would it be closed? Would it be seasonal / closed at night? Meaning, because there is games when we get into summer that can go up to 9 o'clock because we get later. So would there be would we make sure that there was closed by a certain time? Would we be staffing it? This is a question for city staff. Yeah, so city staff wouldn't be staffing it. So what would it look like? At dawn, is there a fence that gets locked?
Not around that park. There would not be a fence.
But just the water would be turned off?
We would try to be consistent with Magnolia Park and how that one's run.
Yeah, there's controls.
Yeah,
Controls.
Yeah, it's just on demand.
Okay, and then seasonal closure. The adventure area? Can't read my notes. The adventure, so if we did it, I'm a zip liner, I love zip lining and doing adventurous things. Would we have any safety issues with that?
No, so the adventure play has expanded into playground safety in Parks and Rec now. So you can look at this and see these people zip lining down and they're never more than 3'10" off the ground.
Okay.
So there's a fall distance, right, that you have to still respect. And similar with boulders, this boulder is just like falling off the top of a play structure. You're 10 feet in the air. We have all the fall material and everything else underneath it. So it's just like as if you were climbing on the outside of a slide or on a slide and fell off the slide. So it's all within the regulations of play.
Perfect. And then because we would have more of like a teenage themed to maybe a younger themed, especially when teams are playing, parents are focused on their kids, and well, they're trying to focus on both.
Right.
So is there fencing around this for maybe to keep the toddlers out of the teenage area? Is there like a couple of obstacles where the parents could sort of like catch them before they got, if it's wide open space and again, this is gorgeous, but is there a way to like slow the toddlers down a little bit if they're starting to enter
Yes, there's plenty of ways to doing that. I mean, at this point, we have a zip line that runs this direction, so it stops about right here. I mean, we can turn it around and run it that direction, so, you know, a kid would have to run across into this space, and we could have a little wall there or something to where they can't just bolt out. So it's about just controlling the circulation. And it is a playground, so yeah, when the 2-year-old's over on the adventure play, mom should know that.
Sure.
And we need to, at the same time, be aware of that. That's going to happen, so we have to be careful with that.
And we always say that parents should know that,
Right.
but it's always best to slow down the child as
Yeah.
any way possible. And then with the needs assessment, was there any conversation about, not necessarily a dog park, but having a dog-friendly area? So like maybe on the trail, having a couple poop stands with the poop bags, or are we going to have anything in the park? Or do we even have a needs assessment for dogs on this park?
I don't recall what the dog.
Did anything come up dog on this?
Nothing came up, dog.
Alrighty.
And I think we did radius where the
Closest dog park was and/or will be, I think, well, of course, Centennial has the temporary dog park. And is there another one? Play for All. Play for All and Roberts Ranch will have dog parks as well. And with this, it just, the space just wasn't there for an additional dog park, to be honest.
Not necessarily a dog park, but like, because he said there's gonna be like a walkway, a trail.
If we had like, those,
The bags.
Oh, the bags? Oh, yeah, those.
The stations.
but if it's not, and if it wasn't in the needs assessment, that's what I'm just checking. Was there any question about making it a little more dog-friendly? If not, then no, but.
From my experience, folks in the area already walk their dogs through the area, so just by adding, a little poop bag station where you can pick up the poop, I don't think that would be a huge thing to add, because it's already being done, to be honest. But not used as a dog park, but I think people are using that area to walk their dogs.
It's becoming pretty common, whether there's dog parks or not. These bag dispensers are put into parks along trail systems where people are walking. So whether there's a dog park or not, these disposal bags will be provided.
But I guess if we had that, then we would now be talking about maintenance, like who would be filling them and stuff like that. And I know I just opened a can of worms, but just checking
Right, that's why
on
I
the
look at
needs
David.
assessment if it was talked about.
And I will add too, if you go back to, I think, the third slide with the walkway, or when you first walk into and a lot of this information came from the committee and the community to have, of course, a themed since it is Bobby Sox's home complex, from February through June, to have the majority of the theme there be softball. And so I think Greg's taken that into consideration as well. Because that's their home complex, just like the boys have home complexes. This is their home complex as well. Not to say that it will be 100% softball year-round, but the majority of the games would be played there. So we took that into consideration as well.
Rachel, can you clarify, because I've actually had people ask me this, and I would like to have the clarity. Is there a difference between softball fields and baseball fields, and what is the difference?
The difference is softball fields are typically skinned infield. They don't have grass on the infield, so the ball travels a little faster on the dirt infields. Baseball fields, if you see they will have grass on the infield, it's harder for softball to play on that type of diamond.
So once a field is made,
It's that type of field, or can it be transitioned back and forth?
The thing is, you can play baseball on a softball field. It's harder to play softball on a baseball field.
So once
The pitcher's mound is.
Yeah, and plus the baseball, you have a pitcher's mound as well.
So once a field is made, we should leave it that way, or it can be changed throughout the year?
You can change, not throughout the year, you can change it, but not throughout the year. That would be tough.
That's what I mean.
Ask David.
Great, and we're going to go to Commissioner Greaves.
Thank you. Greg and Olga, I'd just like to compliment you on the plan. We've been working together for a while, and watching this come together this part's really exciting for me. It's all been, conceptual and some ideas. This is really kind of bringing everything into focus better. I have one question. So the bio report is going to tell us where and if there are beetle infestations in the elderberries?
Correct.
Okay, so we don't know for certain yet if there's any mitigation that has to be done. We're just assuming that these beetles live in elderberry bushes, and these are probably infested with them, and so we're probably going to have to mitigate.
We're trying to
Is that
protect.
that's the assumption at this point?
So they provide habitat for the elderberry.
Right.
Yeah, and part of what was interesting in going out to the site and just working on this project is that this used to be a remnant of a creek, right, correct? So the fact that it's broken up might affect how the habitat might be fragmented by now. So a lot of the shrubs that are there are probably not healthy enough to provide habitat. And so that's why we need to go the extra step to learn what is there. And then, because those shrubs could still be there, but they probably, if there are no beetles, and that is good for us. But if there are some, then we just need to know how far away do we need to stay away from that
Great.
shrub.
Thank you.
Commissioner Chang?
Well, great, thank you for coming. And I have to say, I love the design of the entrance. And it creates the identity of the park. And I hope all our parks have their own identity with their own design of the entrance so that everybody could identify it. You know, this is pretty clear. And I believe this park is ADA compliance, correct?
Yes, I mean, there's, when you're talking about ADA access, not the whole park is accessible, but every part of the park will have access to it, at least one part of that piece. So the answer is yes, per se, but.
But not all the activities are able, suitable for disabled, like.
It's tricky because they'll be able to access parts of everything, but not everything of everything. So it's accessible, but there's levels of being able to either wheel up or walk up or however you get to the space. And then at some point you may need to abandon your chair and get more physical with yourself to get to the top of a big slide or something, because we don't have a ramp system that goes 16 feet in the air. It'd be all ramps. So
I understand not everything will be okay, but like the water park, for example, can the wheelchair just move in and have fun with the water?
You just roll right into that. It's all concrete. You can sit, we'll have spaces where you can roll up, and there's actually little curved areas or rocks in this case that your wheelchair can sit against, and you can be able to reach right onto the water. So it's very interactive, whether you're confined to a chair or not.
The reason I bring it up because we have recently the Play for All parks that designed for everybody, right? So I'm saying, trying to see now, since we have master plan for all the parks, whether we could add 1 or 2 activities for wheelchair accessible.
Absolutely.
And to have the disabled able to integrate in the community as well.
Right.
Instead of parents say, we can only go to the Play for All park. We cannot go to other park.
And I want to point out, like this one, especially like these types of swings become very easily accessible, from once they're stopped, you can get on them, and a lot more people that can't sit on a swing and do it the way, this is something that makes it very, very capable for people that don't have the motor skills to do that type of thing. So the industry is really beginning to provide a lot more of that whole access capabilities.
All right. Thank you very much, I think, for taking into that account. Thank you.
And Commissioner McMahon?
Yes, Greg and Old, thank you very much. It's been a better part of the year that we've been working on this. I remember that first meeting, you both showed up and had this beautiful plan, and we showed up with red pens and just marked it all up, and then we met again, and you have answered our desires for our community time and time again, and it's much appreciated. It's nice to see, even in the current pictures, I know we've had some concerns with maybe some of the artwork and whatnot, and you've made those changes. So I just want to say thank you very much. This is a working conceptual draft master plan. So the plan that we see here tonight is not the final plan, and there's going to be more changes to that. So thank you very much for being so accommodating and answering that call every time. And then for Commissioner Palmer, one of the things I wanted to add was the dog waste bag dispenser. So we do have that in the city on some of our trails now. In fact, I'm working with Public Works on a couple issues. So the city does provide dog waste bags. One of the issues that we're working on is we don't really, on some of our trails, we don't have waste receptacles. So that presents problems. So it's a great suggestion, and we'll make sure when we get to that point that we somehow have that integrated into this plan as well. So thank you.
Great. Commissioner Palmer?
Just to be clear, I'm not suggesting that we have dogs. I was just asking in the needs assessment, was it asked, in the needs assessment, was there any discussion about dogs? And Reggie answered that there wasn't, so,
Well,
like a dog piece.
not for this specific park.
Yeah, so that's all. If there was, then could we accommodate with at least that? But if there isn't,
Great. Thank you very much. And with that, if there are, I see as there are no more questions, we're going to go ahead and open it up for public comment. And this time is not to exceed 3 minutes. So with that, we'll go ahead and open it up regarding this. Remember, we are not voting on it till February, or this won't be placed on the agenda till February. And any additional comments, please feel free to email.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Mary Vasquez. I'm the Vice President of Vacaville Bobby Sox.
Erica Lee, President of Vacaville Bobby Sox.
Sarah Case, Player Agent, Bobby Sox.
I just want to thank you all for your time tonight. We were able to attend the October community meeting, which a lot of my notes, so this is my big email chain in the agenda tonight. And we were able to provide some feedback, and I just want to say thank you to Greg for incorporating some more softball imagery in it. But, you know, I think we unfortunately were unable to attend the May community meeting in May 2019, which was, I think, one of the first ones. Unfortunately, it was during the peak of our softball season, and almost all of our board members were hands on deck at Nelson, and it was literally happening, you know, 50 yards away over at Vacapina. And so, you know, it kind of feels like we had a missed opportunity to provide feedback. And I've heard multiple city staff members say, you know, Eleanor Nelson Park is the home of Vacaville Bobby Sox. And I feel like there was a couple chunks of months that we could have been reached out to or consulted with about these draft plans. And unfortunately, we weren't able to attend the meeting until October. So it feels like a little bit of a missed opportunity. So I hope that the feedback that I provided and that you all hear tonight is heeded. And, you know, I think that we are the primary users for six months out of the year of the softball field. So I don't want to reiterate a lot of my notes because I think that they're pretty clear in the emails. But I do think that the park feels very open, whereas right now it's very enclosed and very fenced off, and we have one entry and one exit to the park. And in the drawings, it feels very, very open, and so I am concerned about safety and how this would impact our operations and also impact our players' safety. So I hope that there's more consideration about fencing around the entire park. I would also be concerned about parking. I think with a creation of a water park and all of the new development in the recreation side of things, that parking is going to be a big issue for us come season time. And if it is going to be used as a rental facility, that will have huge impacts to our season. And so I hope that that is further considered by the Community Services Department in terms of what that looks like and how it impacts our facility use agreement and contract with the city. Just in terms about the T-ball field, so hopefully those measurements were made. We have a 6U, which is mini socks for us. It's not T-ball, which has different dimensions than the other two fields. And so hopefully that's considered when that T-ball field is built out and created. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, that's good. As long as the little people can play on it. They need a smaller field. I mean, it looks like it's, I know it will actually fit. Is there a difference in the T-ball field versus a softball version of a 6U field?
Well, Yes, thank you. So the 3 minutes, we have to make sure it's equitable in terms of speaking, so thank you so much. But I know you haven't had a chance to speak, so if you wanted to also go in the microphone and state anything that you felt was important, we're
Sure.
up for it. Thank you.
So, yeah, that was my question about the T-ball field. Our little 6Us, you know, they could benefit from a small field, but so if it does have the 2 different options, that would work, unless it wasn't able to be changed between our, you know,
You
the.
could add multiple length bases in the same T-ball space or the mini space, so it'll work for both.
Okay. Thank you. And the sight line right now we wanted to address the sight line right now for the fields is where families can go out. They can keep, you know, younger kids on the playground. They're playing, they're watching their older kids play on field 2, which is the backfield. So we're just hoping that the sight line for parents who have the various ages of children, you know, and want to accommodate both, don't hinder that. Because even with the little playground inside, you'd have access to see field 1, but field 2 you wouldn't. So that's just something to think about. As far as the shade at Nelson, there's a lot of shade. The whole thing is shaded in there. We've got beautiful trees in there. Lots of beautiful trees. It is nice and cool in there. There's, you know, we hang out there. We spend all of our days there from February to the end of July. You know, my kids play at that field all day and night without a playground. There's dirt, there's sticks, you know, there's whatever they can find. I mean, for us, that's softball life. So it's different, I guess, when you're making this plan, and as a city, you want to have a space that's more usable. Why can't we use the fields year-round for softball? That generate revenue not only from the February to the June. We could open up year-round softball, have softball run, and the fields would be used for what they were designed for, essentially, and wouldn't cost all this money. And be a benefit for all the girls in our community and our families who desire more time on the fields. And that comes kind of along with what was said about whatever's being played on the fields, whether it's baseball or softball, where there's softball fields. So, I mean, I would anticipate, and when I first heard of this, I thought that it was going to be a renovation of the softball fields. So hopefully that gets taken into consideration also. I'm not even going to touch on the Beatles. And I think everything else for me was covered by you.
I would only add one last thing about the water feature. It seems like a great idea, but in terms of cost and maintenance of a water park, I hope that that's considered and assessed before a big project like that is taken on, in terms of like what expenses are Magnolia. I know other water features already have to be replaced in certain areas, so I would consider that. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. Oh, you're gonna go for it.
So I kind of wanted to piggyback on, I'm sorry, Erica with Vacaville. I wanted to kind of piggyback on as far as the other features is a rental facility. One of our concerns was, and I know this was a draft plan, but as far as food trucks, because that would definitely impact our fundraising for Bobby Sox. And I wanted to see if that was something that if in fact there is this is considered a rental facility during our season, is that something that would be considered to bring to Bobby Sox, and asking if that was bringing a food truck into there would impact our snack bar concessions.
It would.
And definitely it would. So I would love to have somebody speak to us prior to that happening, if that was something that was addressed to the city about having food trucks there. One other thing is, wanted to touch on the fields there over at Nelson. And I know everything else is being beautified and modified for the plans for the park, but I also wanted to check and see if they were even speaking about the fields that we are currently playing on. Seeing if those are being restored, as well as scoreboards, because everything right now for the scoreboards are non-operational. and the fields get completely saturated and flooded, and we have limited manpower as far as extracting all of the water off of the fields. So if we're beautifying the park, I would like to see if we can actually address the issues on the fields as well.
Thank you
That was
very
it.
much. We appreciate all the input that's been provided to us as well. And I know at this point, in terms of operations of the park and things that are going right now, we're just looking at the layout of the park. And I know as we move forward as well, to make sure and ensure you guys have a great program, and I think that would be dealt with more in the operational side. And those questions will definitely be noted. Like, I think that's important. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And then Commissioner Graves, did you want to?
Oh, yeah. I just want to, am I on?
Oh, in that case, I will go ahead and close public comment. Thank you so much.
Are you sure you want to close?
Oh, wait, no, don't close public comment. Okay, never mind.
I just
But
want
I know the discussion back and forth, taking public comment. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, you know, the thing about, you know, possible rentals, that's just conceptual. These are things that are possibilities. We're not thinking about, well, we could, you know, do these sales while you're having your games. That's not the thought. While Bobby Sox isn't out there. These are other things that the park can be doing while you're not occupying it. So I don't think there's a concern there for us encroaching on your fundraising abilities.
Yeah. I would note that I brought that up at the community meeting for Nelson, and it didn't sound like it had been considered in terms of Saturdays and facility rentals of this new park. So
It's
that's
just a
why
concept at that point.
I wanted to document it, so that way we're on record for saying it should be considered when we are in contract, what that means for facility rentals.
And because this is a Brown Act meeting, we're also risking the chance of getting off agenda. So to make sure that we're sticking with, the contracts are a completely different topic. And right now, we're looking at the layout of the park. So, but we do, thank you for noting that. Great. Thank you very much. Commissioner Palmer, did you have a question?
I just had just for clarification, this is a question for Reggie, because you've said this before. T-ball.
Close public comment?
What?
Okay, gotcha.
No. See if there's somebody else.
For T-ball, I saw somewhere as being on the committee for YSAT, I saw somewhere saying that T-ball is exclusive to the city. Is that true? Is that wrong? So in other words, if we had a T-ball field, and if we made a T-ball field at this park, it would only be used for the city, or no?
It's a mini ball field, so I think primarily it will be used for mini socks, right?
Leave it like that.
We keep saying T-ball. Now in the off-season, the dimensions for mini socks and T-ball are probably the same when you start getting to pegs and where they put their pegs, right? But yeah, and if in the summertime, if we're running our T-ball league for an overflow, we're not saying that we wouldn't have a T-ball game or practice at that field.
Just want to make sure.
But for their season, it's going to be exclusively mini socks.
So it's just a mini, we should just call
It's
it
just a mini
field.
field.
That's
It's
what
just a
we
mini
should just
field,
say,
yeah.
not a
So
T-ball
when you
field.
start saying T-ball and you know, it's just a mini, it's a smaller version of a field of these two larger ones, of A and B.
Great. Thank you. Are there any other public comments regarding this? No. Well, in that case, I'll go ahead and I will now. Oh, no, I'm going to keep it open. Thank you.
Good evening, Greg, exciting. I've been at the community meetings. Very happy to see the conceptual plan come to so much color, and this is vibrant and exciting. And as a adjacent property owner to this, I am excited for this to happen. And keeping this within the conceptual that is the agenda for tonight, I just want to point out that the 6 acres of undeveloped open space that is the tan upper right part of this draft, yes, right there. There is zero interest in having that have a walk area through it, which is something I thought I heard you say. There's a very well-established path around it, indicated by the heavy dashed line. Right now, that is disked land, not flat, not walkable, meaning this is ankle killing walk. Nobody walks through those 6 acres because currently it is rolling, disked weed patch, natural beetle habitat, or whatever have you, with a lot of native original valley heritage oak trees there. So if there is talk conceptually about putting pathways through there, that involves a lot of extra grading and money that the city is going to have to spend to make that through there. That I don't think is the money we want to spend as a city in beautifying Nelson Park. I think that's one area we don't need to be spending money in. A quick little bit of background as to the Alamo Creek. Many people don't know that the feds came to Vacaville in the 1960s and rerouted Alamo Creek south of Marshall. So right now, if you actually look at the FEMA flood map, it still shows Old Alamo Creek going right through the right side of this plan, and then New Alamo Creek reemerging south of Marshall. So when the feds did that, the intent was to leave that 6-ish acre of open space for future potential water issues, and also it is a natural water collecting basin. There is no flooding in that area because there is so much open space to absorb all the water runoff that's coming from the surrounding areas. So we absolutely want to make sure that we keep as much open space there to absorb all that water. And finally, my time's running out, a 1988 document from the city's planning department showing, and it says, no trenching, filling, or construction within the drip line of trees. So there are, yes, dozens and dozens of beautiful oak trees there, and we want to make sure that somebody wasn't just writing this for no reason in 1988, that we don't want to do any construction around the oak trees, because you cannot mitigate a 400-year-old Valley Heritage oak tree that is what the Oak Valley subdivision was named after. So let's make sure we have caution at playing with any of the established oak trees there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all that feedback, and we do have one more for public comment. Please state your name. Thank you.
Hello, Damien Lee with Vacaville Bobby Sox.
Podium.
Speak, just looking at the, if you can go back to the map beforehand, you're showing a water park where the park is right now. If you're talking about having a water park sitting there during game days or during the summertime, which most of the time the water park is going to be used, that is when the girls are going to be playing. So I don't know if you've ever been to this park or if you've driven by it, but during softball season, that parking lot that's shown right there in the bottom is full. Then the overflow parking does not go into there, it goes on to Marshall, which then creates more traffic, which then creates more traffic flow. You also have problems if you're building a water park there. That means you're going to have people that aren't there for the softball, but they're for the water park. So now you're just making more of a congestion area. You also have parking on the other side of the park. Well, I understand that, but on Nut Tree, if you've ever tried to go down Nut Tree with Vacaville sitting right there next to it, there's no way for you to get in and out of that area. So you're already creating more congestion just getting in and out of that parking lot that's on the other side of the softball field. You're also talking about having a food truck area. I, again, want to stress, this is a softball field. So during the summertime, if you're having a food trucks coming in there, 2, 3, you got 6-year-olds coming through there. 6 to 10-year-olds. Plus you have the warm-up area next to where the food trucks are going to be. So you're going to have young kids, young girls going by this food truck all the time. I get that they stay there, but you're going to have them moving at all times. This facility gets used from 8 o'clock to about 6 in the evening, all day Saturday, and then during the week. So you can't bring in more traffic into those areas with girls running around. We already have service towers that are all through there with AT&T, with Sprint, with the other mobile tower that's in there. They already bring their trucks through that area. So if you're adding more room for them to get in there and then more vehicles in there, it's becoming more of a liability with all the children in the area. The softball, the mini field is fine. Right now, where the mini girls go, they go into Vacaville, or they go into the Vacaville facility, which is far enough away. We would like to keep them closer. That way, when they get done with their games, they can see the bigger girls play and go, that's where I want to be when they grow up. That's the whole purpose of the softball field and the softball experience, is so that the girls that are younger can be with the older girls. Most of them have sisters. Most of them have their parents that have played there or are coaching other girls. That's what we're trying to get across to them. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all of your public comments and contributing to this. Are there anyone else would like to speak? No? With that, I'll go ahead and I will close officially public comment. I know the consultant has a lot of additional things that we've heard, and I would also like to know, and further questions or clarifications for the consultant, you can go ahead and ask. But I did want to know, in terms of the food truck area, is that, can I hear kind of both sides and some things that have been considered in developing that?
The food truck idea came about for special events. It's not necessarily going to be there every day. It's good. The Bobby Sox are going to control their space during their rental. If you're not having an event or a game and the park is open and there's no Bobby Sox, then the city has open reign probably to manage that space. So when you're having your 6 months from February to June, those are your 6 months, and that's whatever the contract agrees to. So the trucks are strictly there for times other than Bobby Sox to activate the facility when there's not that happening, because we don't want to take from their concession. We don't want to, provide anything that's going to take away from their program. And that area is not accessible by cars. They'll have to go in, the trucks would have to go in with a bollard removed to be able to even come into the space. There's no vehicle access into that whole area. So there won't be trucks, cars moving in that space at all.
Great, thank you very much. And of course, I think this does get into more the contractual or more the contract based on the contracts, and that would definitely be something to note as you work out either your individual contracts or the overall contract that's being dealt with right now with legal over with the city. Any other comments or anything else you would like the consultant to know? We're not voting on the approval of this layout right now, but this is definitely something as it's coming to us in a couple months. We don't meet in January, but we do meet in February, so it's important to kind of note especially what has been brought to our attention of the main users and stakeholders of that, and also keeping in mind that it's a community park and some of the issues that should be brought up in contracts. But anyone else from the commission? No? Okay. And also, if there are further things, please do email staff. We do appreciate that feedback and being able to consider it as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and close that agenda item. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And moving on to item 9A, committee reports, Play for All Task Force, that's me. With that, it's exciting to go by and see a lot of the progress that's been made. It's been pretty rainy recently, but they've already been doing some digging and have broke ground. So that's all from my end. Moving on to committee reports, 9B, Youth Sports Advisory Team, Commissioner Palmer.
The last meeting that we had, can you hear me?
Am I on? There you go. You're on.
At the last meeting that we had, we did have some conversation about the lighting for the different leagues and the parks. And I'm asking staff for clarification on the process to get lighting for, I'd like to bring this information back to the leagues, the lighting for the different facilities that or the different places where they play. I do see on our agenda that that's going to be touched upon, but the one question that I'm asking that will be talked about in this is what's the process, because lighting is on the burden of the city, it's on the city side in the agreements, not on the league side. So I was wondering if we can have somebody answer that.
And I know we are going into, I want to say, into the lighting, I believe, with Hugh Hesterman regarding that. And Carrie, did you want to did you want to respond to that and have any information that might clarify the process that would be undertaken for some of the leagues to get the lighting that they would need? Or is this going to be touched upon with Hugh's presentation?
Well, I think it will be touched upon with Hugh's presentation, but just a couple for immediate. One of the things that we're looking to as, something that's more short-term is looking at putting on, installing timers out at all the ball fields so that, just to provide that safety, that overflow lighting so that folks can at least set those timers for an extended period of time so that they can safely get to their vehicles. And so, and then those would go dark, once folks have departed from the park. Moving forward with the various complexes, and I'm not familiar if this concern is at every single ballpark. I don't know if it's at Arlington. I don't know at Centennial, Keating. I've heard that obviously that it's an issue at Nelson, but an assessment would have to be conducted, in terms of, where do we need to add additional lighting? And I'm assuming that when we talk about lighting, that we're talking about safety lighting, not field lighting. Field lighting is maintained by the city, by our Parks Department, and that happens on a routine basis. And if it's, if there are issues with field lights, then yeah, we should be notified. Our Public Works Department should be notified. They maintain the lights. Again, with regard to specifically safety lighting, it would be assessing each facility and determining, obviously, where's the best location, what type of lighting, and then, yeah, do a cost analysis. That's, that would be the process. And then as part of the budget, we would request funding to improve lighting.
On the city side or
They're city facilities, so the city would, we would present something as part of our budget requesting, and I'm assuming that it would probably be at a CIP level, which is, the threshold for a CIP project, capital improvement project, is $45,000.
Okay, so to bring back to the group, to bring back to my YSAT group, the best idea or the best chain of action would be to email the city, because from what I'm hearing, what I got from the YSAT meeting was there was a partial piece about safety, but also extra lighting on the fields also. So if there is a request, then emailing city staff is the first step. What's the process is what I'm asking to bring back?
I don't want to speak for, the ball field lighting, again, is installed and maintained by our Public Works Department. And my understanding is that there are parks maintenance staff who routinely attend the YSAT meetings. But again, I would defer that to our parks manager, David Jacobson, who's here, who, can give more information on the maintenance and installation of field lighting.
So it sounds like, being the common theme of also making sure the concerns are noted here, but also these are concerns that should be addressed in YSAT, but also to make sure that they meet the third Thursday of the month. So the next meeting that YSAT has is the third Thursday of January, right? And
not always.
Not always.
It's not always monthly. It's when needed is what it is.
Oh, okay. So then just to make sure there's clarification as to the process, either a written process or the process that everyone has to go to share their concerns and then have it be analyzed, as you were saying, doing the assessment, to make sure it's something that can be addressed or should be addressed. But I think at the next YSAT, meeting, it sounds as if there needs to be clarification as to the process to make sure that the needs are addressed in some way, shape, or form.
Either in
So-
writing or something that either something I can bring back via email to me before the next meeting or at the next meeting, if there can be something written for the leagues to know what their steps are.
What the expectations
Yes.
are, just to clarify that. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Director.
I'm optimistic that as we get through the remainder of the staff reports tonight, that we'll hear from both David and Hugh related to, the lighting.
Great, thank you very much. Moving on to the facility feasibility study, Commissioner Chang, Commissioner Ramos.
You want to start?
Sure. Okay, Commissioner Ramos.
Commissioner Chang and I met with Carrie and Jim to go through the facility assessment. The consultants looked specifically at improvements at Georgie Duke, Davis Street Rec Center, or Three Oaks. And after conducting studies, walking through all of the buildings, determined that the biggest bang for the buck, for a variety of reasons, would be at Three Oaks. So the focus is now on improving Three Oaks. Once that decision was made, then the conversation turned to whether it's restoring Three Oaks as it exists now, adding additions, improving, or tearing it down and starting over. And initially the conversation went towards starting over, so building something brand new in that space with expanded performance space, more classrooms, more admin space, just making it a more usable, beautiful building.
Great, thank you.
Right.
Commissioner Chang.
I want to add on the reason we focus on Three Oak Community Center, because the Georgia Duke Sport Center, we have limited parking space over there. The school district, the Country High, will be moving out and the charter school is moving in. So we'll be pretty occupied. So we could not expand, but we can only improve the interior. So for the Three Oaks, I think the first, as Commissioner Ramon saying that at first we thought of redo everything, but then we say, well, have the structure right now we have, just keep it, and at the same time expand it and do a performance hall, and also administration's building as well. And but again, everything depends on the budget as well. What we spend. I did bring up a question. So if we're going to spend so much money on it, would it be feasible to build a totally new facility somewhere else? But again, it depends on how we present it to the city council as well, and also the cost, the budget, right? Am I right, Director Carey? I think, yeah, okay, thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Commissioner Chang. And then moving on to item number 10, reports of Parks Manager, David Jacobson.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commission. So here's for tonight. Here's my. Oh, that's the wrong month here. Hold on a second. There we go, that's the right one. Okay, so the first thing I had was a memorial bench request for Orchard Park. In the photo on the left, you can see a plan view there. It's on the eastern side of the park between the two newly paved paths, and then the photo there, that basically that shaded area is where the applicant requested the bench be located. The next one had another bench request for Arlington Park. In the plan view there. There's the TGIF building kind of in the center of the photo, and to the right next to that ball field, just north of the playground. It would be between those two trees there in the photo, looking towards the field. Did a little Measure M project last month. We needed to redo the striping at Meadowlands. So the photo on the left was the before, and then obviously on the right's the after. Let's see, then we also, as part of the paving project that went on at Orchard Park, the project was a little short on funding, so we used some of the park Measure M beautification funds to get the benches replaced. There were wooden painted benches there for many, many years. So the CIP project installed the concrete pads, and then the maintenance, our maintenance folks in my group put in the 5 benches. So that was kind of a maintenance component of that overall CIP project. And those are the benches. They're similar to the memorial benches. They just don't have the plaque inserts on them. And then also we finished all of the resurfacing got completed last month at Hawkins Park on the 2 to 5 playground. The old surfacing had big holes in it and was degrading. So that's all brand new fall protection in there. And then we begin our seasonal maintenance on ball fields. The picture on the left is they started on Larson Park, redoing those, getting those 2 fields in better shape. And then on the right is some work they're doing with the infield grass at Centennial. And then kind of going to the discussion about the ball field lighting. So we're doing our ball field light surveys this week, and then we'll get that information, we'll get to the contractor, and then over the next couple months, any of the lighting repairs that need to be done for the existing ball field lighting will be completed. And then we're also, we're having problems again with the tennis court lights at Three Oaks. So I have a meeting with a gentleman next week to try to get those repaired again. But they're fairly dated, and at some point they're going to need to be totally replaced. But that's all I have for tonight.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Palmer?
Thank you, David, for the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So if the leagues have an issue with the field lighting, they should email you directly?
Yeah, if there's lights out or aren't working, then I need to know about it so we can get them fixed.
Now, that's what I had said at the YSET meeting, and then I had a couple of the coaches say out loud, but some of the fields don't have lighting.
Right, there's a lot of the ball fields that do have no lights.
So what is the procedure to request lighting on different fields or whatever?
That I don't know. I can ask the public works director how that works, and he can relay a message to Carrie, Mrs. Walker, about it. But I just take care of the existing facilities. I don't know how the process for getting new lights installed, whether they're safety lighting or ball field lighting. If there's something that's existing that's being maintained, then that's my responsibility.
So Director Walker, what's the process for these fields that don't have lighting? How do they get lighting?
So I would say that probably would need to be clarified either at the next YSAT meeting or over email, just to make sure that because it's not on the agenda, we don't want to put pressure to answer a question that we weren't prepared for, but I do think that it needs to be clarified, the process that we can undergo to get new lighting, so it's understood by everyone.
So can we have that agendized on the next few meetings, at some point, these concerns, and have these answers to give to the public in the future? Can we have this?
Or that can, I'm thinking the process for requesting new lighting and maybe putting that probably can be done over email, right, Carrie, or right, Director Walker, and then I'm thinking if there are further concerns that cannot be addressed at YSAT, then we can probably add that to the agenda if the concerns aren't met. Is that okay? Sound good? Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions, comments?
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much, David. Then moving on to reports of park planner, Hugh Hesterman. Is he here right now? Oh, there he is. He's here. I missed him. It's camouflaged.
Good evening. On the agenda for tonight, I see there's 3 items, A, B, and C, that are listed under Park Planner. I have also a kind of a standard report that I'll provide for you, but I thought it might make sense to, since we were on the subject, to jump right in onto the items A, B, and C. So starting with the first is it asks regarding for an update on the pickleball court strategy. Most of you recall from a few years ago when the Vacaville Pickleball Club came and petitioned asking for some striping on a court somewhere. And we spent quite a bit of time going back and forth trying to identify the best location, and also working with tennis players who use the existing tennis courts to some degree or other. One of the very first things that was brought to my attention is the fact that the tennis courts at Centennial are not used very much. They are in, their surfacing is in really bad condition, mostly due to the cracking that's caused from the emissions from the landfill to the north of them. Gases come underneath the court and have, over the years, caused bubbles, and our maintenance people have cored those sections and replaced it. And I have a photo I'll share later on that shows the condition. And there's actually one court, I was out there this afternoon, there's one crack in one court large enough to drop a golf ball in. That's how serious they are. So I can see why tennis players don't really like using that. But the real factor there at Centennial was the wind. And that's something that we really can't easily mitigate. The wind comes from the southwest, the wind comes from the north, occasionally the wind even comes from the east. We have windscreens up, and the pickleball club made the very proper observation that pickleball balls are much lighter than tennis courts and very heavily affected by the wind, much more so than with tennis. And for that reason, they said, no thanks, we're not interested in playing pickleball at that court. Now, at the October meeting, we had people who have specifically asked that those courts be modified for pickleball. So I'm saying, time out, let's talk about this, because we have one group saying, no way, it won't work, and another group saying, we want this. I think that there needs to be some time spent determining exactly what will satisfy. Meanwhile, we also are looking at constructing some dedicated pickleball courts over in the Roberts Ranch subdivision. Now, that won't be for a few years. I understand that. Also, the cost to convert and resurface a tennis court is quite expensive. So in the master planning process, I know I'm kind of going around a circle here, and I'll bring it together. In the master planning process for Centennial Park, we believe that we can relocate those existing tennis courts into an area where they will be much less subject to wind, and then do away with them altogether. So my initial conservatism in me, I would rather not spend $100,000 resurfacing some courts when we think we may very well have to demo them in the not too distant future. So I know there's not a clear-cut answer there, but I will tell you, from my opinion, converting the tennis courts at Centennial into pickleball doesn't seem to be a viable option at this point in time. True, you can plant some greenery around there. There's some evergreens that can grow very thick, but you won't totally end the problem with the winds. So strategy-wise, Oh, I should also add that I've been observing, I drive by Orchard Park usually a couple times a day at least. And on Thursdays and Thursday evenings and Sunday mornings is when the Vacaville Pickleball Club meets. And it is not a growing sport. Now, some people might want to barbecue me for saying that, but their numbers have not been increasing like you've been led to believe. I've been seeing maybe 2 courts used and sometimes only 1. And so that is another factor that we need to keep in mind as we dedicate using the few funds that we have for a particular facility. So we have on the horizon dedicated pickleball courts coming. We can look at moving the tennis courts at Centennial to a more wind-free area. The tennis courts at Three Oaks are, we've talked to the Vacaville Pickleball Club about converting one of those, if you recall that discussion, and their excitement for doing that has waned. They basically have not followed through on doing that. So I don't see the increase in demand that we've been hearing. That's not to say we are not trying to accommodate pickleball. We are. Any questions about that particular response? If not, I will move along then to item B. I'm not really clear on what is being asked here. It seems like there's a whole bunch of things when we talk about adding additional lit fields, all the way down to something as small as just simply maintaining existing facilities. So if, Commissioner Palmer, if you asked about the process, if there's something that is currently being maintained and it needs some attention, lights out, timer's not working, things like that, that's something we just write a work order for, and we try to get staff on it to take care of it. If it's a very minor adjustment, changing the timer, stuff like that, that all can be accomplished pretty easily. If it's at the opposite end of that spectrum, would be lighting a whole new field. Cost-wise, you probably $200,000 to $300,000, depending upon how far you have to bring power, how many light poles you need to install, how big the field is. There's a lot of variables there. But $200,000 to $300,000 is a lot of money. And obviously that's where do you get that money from? So that's something that would have to, as Director Walker commented earlier, would be in the CIP range because it's over the set amount for CIPs. It would be something that would need to be budgeted, need to identify funding for, and go through the whole budgeting process. Everything in between there is going to be a decision as to whether it meets the criteria of just a simple, small project that can be funded easily, or something that has to be planned for and pull money from somewhere, whether it be Measure M, whether it be existing maintenance monies, whether it be operating expenses, whatever it might be. So there's a wide range there. The second component that was listed under item B is the safety lighting. And I think Director Walker sort of in passing mentioned that there are some things that can be done, and I believe we talked about this in October too, such as perhaps leaving the field lighting on long enough for the patrons to leave the field. That may be something we could, install a timer. I have contacted Musco Lighting. They're the kind of the experts in the United States on field lighting about a product that they have. I haven't got an answer yet, but they have a remote system that you can control with a cell phone or a laptop to turn the lights on or off at any given time. So you could preset it to go off 15 minutes later. Then when the game is over, there's a lot of options there. And I don't think that's near as expensive as lighting a new field. So that would probably fall in somewhere in the middle category. Putting in safety lighting that you might consider like we use in most of our parks that go along the pathways, typically a 15-foot tall pole with a light fixture on top. Each one of those, you could figure, if you're going to do a bunch of them in a project, they might be $3,000 to $4,000 a piece installed. It kind of gives you a figure of what that might cost. Those, in order to provide 1 foot candle of light on a pedestrian surface, you need to install one of those about every 110 feet. So it kind of gives you an idea how many of those you might need. We don't use those in most of our parks because they're not used because parks are closed at night, with the exception of the parks that are intended to be utilized at night, or some of our community parks. In fact, by the way, that's something we need to change in our ordinance because our ordinance doesn't even allow that. It says you got to be out of the parks after dark. So if we have a situation where you have pedestrians in the park at night and it's okay for them to be there, we would need to add additional lighting to get them from point A to point B, whether it be from the ball field area to their cars, to the parking lot, to the restroom, whatever it might be. It could get pretty expensive. So I don't know if that answers your questions. I can document that with some dollars if you need some more information on that, but it's a wide range of what we're talking about here. So, summary, as a designer, the first thing you need to do is identify the problem. What are we actually talking about? I don't know. It sounded from what I heard some of the residents say last meeting was a wide variety of things within that subject of providing better lighting. So I would say we need to take each one individually and say, what's the issue? And break it down and try to find out how we can solve it. Might be really cheap, might be really expensive.
Great, thank you. On that note, since we're on that topic, what is it sounds like there definitely needs to be a needs assessment, especially as with the change of ordinance, as we have expanding parks, such as the Nelson Park that's going to be having softball at night and other sorts of things. It sounds like there needs to be a needs assessment to determine where the lighting's going to be, because safety is an issue, what kind of lighting, and what's the next step to determine? Would we have to change the ordinance first before we can move on to a needs assessment to do lighting?
Well, we're already violating our existing ordinance, so
maybe that's next.
it's kind of like having your dog off leash in an off leash area. We've been doing it for 15 years. We do need to change that. It's not a big deal, really. The other part of your question, though, is the Nelson Park Master Plan, which I guess you still have on your screens, should include areas that are to be used at nighttime, and then what the level of lighting needs to be in there. Okay. And that'll be wrapped into the budget. Then how much is it going to cost to do that? Not necessarily all areas of this park are going to be designed for nighttime use. A good example of that would be, we went through this discussion quite a bit with the Roberts Ranch area, where we have certain areas that are defined as community park areas, and then there's a boundary. Maybe it's unseen, but yet there's a point where we say, beyond this point, you shouldn't go after dark. We're not lighting it for that. You may not have security for those areas. There may be differences in the way the area is the level of pedestrian safety, just in the surfacing and other things like that, the way it's maintained. So that's part of the thing we need to address when we ask which parks are going to be suitable for nighttime use, and are there areas within those that aren't, and kind of draw a line.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Commissioner Palmer, did you have a question regarding that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so if there was a league that wanted to request lighting to certain fields, because I know that like it was Arlington and the one on California.
Keating?
Keating,
Mm-hmm.
yes, Keating, Arlington. So there is certain fields in these areas that aren't lit. what would be the process that the coaches or the leagues could initiate, ignite, to start the CIP process? What do I tell the public?
I would tell them first to document the need. So if they need another field at night, tell staff why. Show them we have too many kids. I mean, I'm just kind of throwing an idea out here, but if you can't accommodate the number of kids that you're serving on the number of lit fields that you have available, that's a pretty good reason to say, hey, we need another field to be lit. And in that explanation of why you need that, you'd have to also show that it's a scheduling problem too. Because I know sometimes there may be a field available, but you can't use it because someone else is using it, or whatever it might be. And then if staff feels like it raises to the level that we need to put it on a discussion for spending that kind of money, like I said, $200,000 to $300,000, it would have to be jostled around with all the other competing interests that we're trying to provide the public, and say, is this rise to the level of being a high priority, or is it a lower priority?
Great, thank you. And also Reggie Hubbard,
Yeah.
would you like to add?
There is a process contained in each league's agreement that outlines the process if they want any type of field improvement. So if someone wanted to put in, a batter's box or a pitching mound or, a warm-up area in their particular field, there's a process outlined within their agreement that walks you through how to go about that. And that includes field lights. So if a league wants field lights, or if they want, I think it was American Little League, wanted to put a batting cage in the outfield. And they said, well, just follow the process within the agreement. It should be contained in their agreement.
For clarification, because I've read the agreements, it does specifically say that lighting is on the city, though. So it says, from what I've read, and I guess we need an interpretation, it says, for certain upkeeps, it's on the leagues, but then lighting is on the city.
Oh.
So I guess that's why I'm asking what their process is, and thank you for giving me that. So they can start the email, or they can start it in writing the city so that the city can evaluate it. That's what I'm going to say? Okay.
Yes. Reggie, did you want to respond to that?
Oh, no, the process is
Yes.
to contact the city. I mean, I think you explained this as well, but there is a specific process in there.
Okay.
As far as the lighting being, and I haven't read through the contract in a couple of years, as far as the lighting being on the city, that's new to me.
Okay.
But I can go through the contract. I mean, we can go through the contract and take a look at that.
Yeah, and it sounds like.
But as far as any improvements, that needs to be in writing, what they want, what their needs are, et cetera, and then we evaluate that and move on that.
Perfect. So it sounds like too, per the discussion earlier as well, to just have clarification in an email. Maybe if that could be provided before the next YSAT meeting, so there can be an additional just discussion focused on that, and they can maybe amongst YSAT discuss how to move forward with either a needs assessment based on their recommendations for what they would for lighting and any safety issues.
We can absolutely send an email out to the entire YSAT group explaining that.
Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Thank you, Hugh. If you wanted to move on to item C.
Yes, Tracy, would you be willing to show me how to?
All the new tech.
I've never seen this equipment before, so it's all new here. While she's helping me with that. I wanted to update the commission about the status of the animal ordinance. So that went to the council on November 12th, and it was that was the first reading. The next reading is scheduled for, the second reading is scheduled for December 10th. And then assuming that goes through and is approved without any problems, there'd be a 30-day waiting period before it goes into effect. So at this point, we anticipate, because there was no discussion at the November 12th meeting, we anticipate that going forward. And the commission asked that I bring back the signage. I will do that after after that has happened. Also wanted to follow up a little bit. Over the years, there's been lots of discussion about the doggy bag issue. We do have doggy bag dispensers some have been installed through Eagle Scout projects at some trails and that sort of thing. We don't provide disposal units. And it just so happens the city of Rockland just is in the process of going through a survey to see what other cities do in that regard. And so far, the initial results are that there was about 12 cities that responded so far, and they all have made comment to one way or the other that there's a lot of lazy dog owners out there. People who are unwilling to haul their little package, however far it might be, to the garbage. The doggy bag dispenser companies, for the most part, provide units that have a small receptacle alongside the dispenser for the doggy bags. But a lot of cities don't use those, including Vacaville, because they're too small and they require frequent emptying, which is something that staff would have to do. We don't have the Recology trucks driving around down our trails to get to multiple garbage receptacles. So I think it's a public education problem mostly, in that we need to somehow get the public to be a little more responsible. I see it in the neighborhoods. I've seen videos of people tossing it underneath their neighbors' bushes, routinely. Just this afternoon, I was out at Centennial Park. There's a package on the tennis courts. Why? I don't understand that. To me, that just is inexcusable. But it is. We're not the only city that has that problem, is my point. Wanted to point out that Magnolia Park it needs to have its master plan updated. Phase 3 for Southtown, which is the area east of Vanden Road primarily, is on the cusp of being ready to move forward. And part of that requirement there before they can start mapping that area is that we need to have a park development agreement in place. And so Magnolia Park, it's not bad, the eastern portion that has not yet been built, but we've learned some things with phase 1 of the park. One is that it's high demand for the picnicking facilities in particular. That park has restrooms, has a parking lot, has a supersized playground with the spray play feature. It has a lot of amenities that are bringing people from outside of Vacaville to utilize that park. And so we would need to discuss that and say, hey, do we want to add on more covered picnic shelters to help reduce the need? Or would the flip side of that is it could add to the draw and make even more people want to come in. Also, in the design of the fire station, the driveway was moved out of the Vanden Road right-of-way and is entirely on the fire station site. Well, that frees up some more of the park to be utilized for park purposes. Good thing, good news there. And then the Park Parish subdivision, which is northeast of the park, is being proposed for development as residential. Currently, it's neighborhood commercial. And so one of the things that is being discussed is those two parcels that are within Magnolia Park that had a quasi public-private aspect to them. We don't know what that means. And so there's a discussion about, is it appropriate to have neighborhood commercial on those two pieces? And then that would, in effect, have some impact on the park, how you design it. Is there going to be walkways connecting into those neighborhood commercial areas, or would there be a wall? Those types of questions need to be asked. I want to point out that Farmstead, the old Eldridge property, is now being, the demolition is underway. Most of the trees have been already removed that were intended to be removed. However, we're going in the rainy season, we are in the rainy season, And so that, along with Phase 1 of Roberts Ranch and the Play for All Park and Nascimesto Park, all of those which are underway to some degree or other, are usually being winterized and basically wrapped up for the winter so that they won't be causing problems. I also wanted to add about the Play for All Park that the council, this escaped me earlier, but this went in front of council for the implementation of actually it was the letter of intent between the city and the Play for All group, indicating what the agreement was going to be. And in that process, the name Play for All was approved by council. So that's fine. At some point, maybe as we get into the design of the eastern portion of that park, in other words, the part that's not Play for All, we will have to grapple with, should that also be Play for All? Or should it be something different? What is its character? Is it going to be an expansion of Play for All, or is it something different? So you can file that away in the back of your head. And it looks like Tracy was able to. And Wayne, thank you very much. Let's see if we can pull this up. There we go. Hallelujah, it worked. The bouldering group, Adopt a Craig, has truly adopted Vacaville's boulders. This was an event that they volunteered for back on October 19th, and they showed up en masse and really got to work on cleaning up a lot of the graffiti around there. Here's a crew here. You can see they've applied the real name of this stuff is elephant snot. I'm not trying to be gross, but it is a heavy-bodied paint remover that's suitable for water to wash it away. It doesn't leave a residue. And you can see him scrubbing on it here, and the gentleman in the bottom right, you might not be able to see it, but he has a wand right here that he's spraying water on it after the material's dissolved. And they went up there and they removed a ton of graffiti that has been up there for many years. And I got a couple more photos. We hauled water up there for him.
Oops, you're back on.
Okay, thank you.
You're back on.
Yeah, so we're talking way up by Old Rocky, in that vicinity, and it's a big hike to haul a lot of water up there. And so I personally hauled up a 55-gallon barrel to give them water to put in their sprayer so they could spray off the graffiti. And you can see in this photo some more graffiti that's waiting to be removed right there. Here's another prominent piece, both before and then, sorry, I'm booming a little bit, and also after. They were able to get most of that stuff off. So it looks really good. Another volunteer thing was the repainting of our shed at Lagoon Valley Park. It was looking really pathetic. And so one of the scouts took it as a personal project to paint it. And here he is after it's done. Looks great, really clean, much nicer. He finished that on the same day as the Adopt a Craig group was out. Another group this is Marcus Linden, is on his Eagle Scout project, is planting trees at the lagoon, at the Centennial Park, dog park. He was able to raise enough money to buy and plant 15 of the trees. We were looking to at least 24, so there's still need for some more out there. But he had a great group out there that day, digging through the hard pan soil and replacing it with some better amended soil, and putting in some very nice trees. They don't look like that today because it was shortly after that we had those horrible winds and they ripped all the leaves off, but they were kept watered very nicely. You can see also in this photo, by the way, Marcus is the one on the left here, so that he's the Eagle Scout that organized this project. Each tree got 3 T-posts and then a cage, so the rambunctious dogs aren't going to wipe out the trees. I think that's his sister there. And here's the whole group. after the day. They did a great job. Another volunteer group was the Lagoon Valley Disc Golf Club, who replaced tee pads 20, 21, and 22 on November 9th. They were out there doing that. There's one of the new ones. Another Eagle project is done by Devin Perriman. He installed a trailhead posting board and trail markings along the Alamo Creek Trail. Here he is. This is actually Nelson Park, by the way. And this installation does not conflict with the draft master plan that it was discussed earlier this evening. They're installing one of the signs there. Another Eagle project was putting a trailhead sign at the Butcher Road entrance to North Pass Trail. And this photo actually wasn't taken for this purpose, but you can see here's where the trail sign is. The sign that's right in front of it is a temporary sign, so that'll end up coming out. And by the way, I should point out that on these trail signs, one of the things that the public has been asking for many years is a map. And so we'll be putting, we have a map developed with all of the trail names, and that'll be posted on this board and also made available by cell phone. So you can scan a QR code if you want and pick it up, and wherever you go in the park, you can carry the map with you if you have a smartphone. Unfortunately, somebody decided to do a little four-wheeling out at Centennial Park, and unfortunately, this is just a too common occurrence. Doesn't take them long to do an awful lot of damage just today. Here's the photo I mentioned earlier about the tennis courts at Centennial. The little round holes, or plugs, I guess you could say, are the areas where a bubble appeared underneath the asphalt surface, and maintenance was able to core drill that out and then fill it with some asphalt. I think I forgot what my number was, something like close to 30 of those out there. The good news is, as landfills get older, the amount of the gases that they emit decreases on pretty much a linear a linear scale. So I think we're seeing that ending. We don't see too many new ones coming in the last few years. In this photo, you might be able to see one right about here. But some of those cracks are really bad out there. There's the little package I told you about. And on the back side, someone posted this. I just thought I'd end with that. Someone took it upon themselves to try to alleviate some of the problems with little baggies being left around. They posted this at the North Pass Trail signage. I think that's everything I have to share tonight. Any questions about anything I've talked about?
Questions, comments? No?
My 3 minutes is up, I know.
You're up. Thank you. Smelling a common theme today. So I did have just one question, and it may be up to you and to legal to decide if we should revisit soon the city ordinance to include something like city-approved sports leagues, so that way we're not
you're talking about the lighting.
For the ordinance,
Yeah.
For the city ordinance, if we're in violation of it, that maybe we can amend it or make a recommendation at city council to include language that would protect everybody, make sure we're not in violation. So if that's per recommendation of legal and yourself, that could be something we can revisit soon. So
Sounds good.
thank you. Thank you very much, Hugh.
You're welcome.
All right, on to the next item number 12, reports of Recreation Manager Reggie Hubbard.
Thank you, Commissioner Chair. I only have a few things to share with you guys tonight. I don't think my mic's on.
Oh,
there you go.
Getting used to it. Thank
I'll
you.
wait for Hugh to pull these up. But I will say last Thursday we had our annual Thanksgiving dinner at the McBride.
It's off again? Here,
There you go.
Okay.
We had our annual Thanksgiving dinner at the McBride Senior Center, and we fed over 150 families. So once again, I did a good job. I'm surprised she didn't mention that tonight. Maybe she did and I didn't catch it, but she does a great job every year with that event. We have a few more events coming up. We don't meet in January, so a few I thought I'd bring up tonight. One, our Santa visits are coming up. So if you want Santa to visit your kid or to visit your party, They're coming up between December 13th and the 14th, and the 20th and the 21st. We had to raise our fees a bit this year because the Santa and Mrs. Claus fees went up, so we have to pass that on to the customer. But at the same time, great event. We always get a lot of folks. All the time slots are usually filled up during this time. And so if you want that at your Christmas party or at your home, please have at it. We also have this Saturday our Breakfast with Santa, December 7th. And once again, that always sells out. You get a pancake breakfast with sausage, or all you can eat pancakes with a couple sausage and beverage. So you can bring your kid, you can bring yourself, take a picture with Santa, make memories. This is also at the McBride Senior Center this Saturday. Don't wait, register fast because the times do fill up. And like I said, since we do not meet in January, these are late January and February events. We have our father-daughter dance on February 8th from 7 to 9 at Three Oaks. We have our mother-son dance January 25th from 7 to 9 at the McBride Center. So the mother-daughter dance at McBride, the father-daughter dance, mother-son dance is at McBride. Father-daughter dance, they threw me off by putting these flyers on programs on one flyer, is at the Three Oaks Community Center, February 8th, January 25th. Would make a great Christmas gift. You can get your tickets early too. So go out and dance with your either son or your daughter or loved one. And actually, that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Reggie.
Sure.
Moving on to reports of Director Carrie Walker.
Thank you, Chair Lujan. First thing I wanted to share with the commission tonight is our latest addition to the public art collection.
Oh, nice.
So this piece was selected by a couple of our Arts Advisory Committee members who were able to attend the Vacaville Art League juried art show earlier this year. It is actually, it's called 5 Oil Cans. It's by photographer Grant Kreinberg, and the photo was shot at Sturgeon's Mill, which is a steam-powered sawmill located up near Sebastopol in Sonoma County. So just want to share that with you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I just want to on the status of the field and concessions allocation document that came to the commission back on October 2nd. There was an awful lot of discussion and comments that were shared that night, concerns expressed, and there was discussion about establishing a committee amongst the commission that evening, and once that meeting ended, and we were able to kind of take a step back and take a deep breath, and there was a good deal of internal discussion. You've all received the email on this. And conferring with the city attorney's office, we're going to put the brakes on a little, get back to work on that. I think actually Andrea Borba, who's here tonight from our city attorney's office, is going to be working on that with Socorro Witsy, who staffs the Youth Sports Advisory Team Committee. And I think we'll begin working on that diligently, I think, after the first of the year. And then it will be shared likely via the YSAP meeting and or emailed out to all the various stakeholders, so everyone has an opportunity to review it, adequate time to review it and comment on it. And then at some point, once we've been able to go through that process and get all that feedback, it will come back to the commission. And I think that's all I have tonight. Just wanted to wish all of you happy holidays. We won't be meeting in January because your meeting falls on New Year's Day, so, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you. Thank you very much. With that, reports of commission. We'll just start with down this line. Commissioner Palmer?
I have nothing.
Nothing to report. Commissioner Rucker?
No, just want to wish everyone happy holidays.
Great, thank you. Oh, now you're off. Commissioner Chang?
Happy holiday to all.
And Commissioner Ramos? Ditto, happy holidays. You did a great job with hosting the other night at the Opportunity House event. Commissioner McMahon?
The same. Happy holidays, everyone.
Great. And Commissioner Greaves?
Oh, well, I actually have a request that we agendize a possibility of continuing the walking path around the Meadowlands Park. There was that article that someone shared on Facebook about how if a park has a walking path, it gets used more. That park can definitely use just a strip of concrete from one side of the park to the other along that fence near the school. I think the school might appreciate it. I know lots of people in the public would appreciate it. We like to walk around that park, but sometimes it's hard to do. The end of that park, it's muddy and wet, and I think Public Works have put some sawdust or shavings down to kind of help absorb the water, because during soccer season it gets watered a lot, and there's a low spot in the center, and that end of the park it gets kind of muddy. There isn't really a good place for people to walk, but I think it would be used a lot more for a walking path if those two ends were connected. And other than that, happy holidays to everyone, and hope you have a safe time over the next month, and see you next year.
Great. As well, thank you everybody for coming today, and thank you for the engagement, and have a good season and a good New Year's. See you next year. Closed.